We're with John Kelly. John Kelly is a personal injury attorney in Phoenix, Arizona. He's agreed to answer some questions related to slip and fall. If you've been in a situation where you have a case that you think may be important, these questions may help you. With that said, John, let's go into our first question here. How long does it typically take to get my case processed and paid to me?
Thanks, Ryan. Happy to answer that question. When someone is injured, it only seems fair that they be paid for their injury promptly by the insurance company, especially after the case is already settled. Insurance companies, though, they're notorious for taking their time to get out these monetary payments to the clients. And a lot of times what it actually takes is an aggressive attorney to hold their feet to the fire, so to speak. So, in my firm, I make sure I am in contact with the insurance companies. We're calling them, bothering them, making sure that they are sending the settlements out in a reasonable time. Understand that if you're still treating for your injury, we're not going to want to try to settle the claim at times because we want to know what the extent of the injuries are. So really, that's the initial driver of when the case settles. But once we know what the extent of the injuries are, we put together a demand to the insurance company, and it can get settled pretty quickly from there. So to answer the question, the process shouldn't take long, a couple of weeks after the actual settlement is obtained, before the check is in the client's pocket.
Okay, next question we had is, I fell in a parking lot at a major retailer and twisted my ankle. I went to the hospital and was released later that day. Is it possible I have a claim?
Okay, when you're at a business, any business in Arizona, you're considered an invitee to that business, and it's actually a legal term. So the owner of that business, therefore, has a duty to you, and that duty is to protect you from unreasonable, dangerous conditions that might exist on their property. So we can establish, just like we always do, a claim of liability based on negligence for the hazardous thing that existed at that business. So there are some questions that I would want to ask any person who has a claim like this, that they've twisted their ankle and went to the hospital. Was the business aware of the condition that caused that injury? And was it an unreasonable condition? Second, if not, should the business have known about the condition? Or was the business in a position to have known that that condition would arise? And so these are the kind of questions that we have to kind of look at to see how the business could be held responsible for that injury. If it's an open and obvious thing that caused the injury, sometimes people trip on something or that was open and obvious that they were aware was there, but yet through their own fault, slipped and fell on it. That's not going to be a good claim. So the other question is, were there damages? And so this case has an ankle injury, and it sounds like they went to the hospital. So it sounds like damages were there. So if we can prove the initial stage of that, they would have a claim. Okay.
Next question is, this is the second time I've slipped and hurt myself due to a company's mistake. Can I still be compensated, or since I was before, will I not be able to win?
Just because you've had an injury in the past does not mean that you don't have a claim in the future for a second injury. Now, attorneys call this pre-existing injuries, and they can either be to the same place of your body or somewhere else. So if you had a back injury before and now you have a head injury, you obviously have a claim for the head injury, and it's a negligence-based claim. Now, if you had a back injury before that you were treating for, and you fell and slipped and hurt yourself again on your back, then you have a pre-existing injury to your back. So the question is, was that injury aggravated by the new injury? And a good medical provider will be able to separate those things. And if the case is that, you will have a valid claim. Now, pre-existing injuries can diminish the value of your claim to an extent. So it's important to talk to a good attorney, call them up and tell them their situation, what your previous accident was, when it was, how your treatment status was at the time that you fell again, and get a good consultation to determine what your best method is moving forward.
All right, this next one's fairly specific. I was offered a settlement for a fall at a sporting goods store. They basically forced me to take an ambulance, but I wasn't hurt that bad. I could tell they were just covering themselves. Now they are offering me a few $1,000s to sign a document, but I'm thinking this might not be the right decision. What should I do?
Well, in this circumstance, if the insurance company is offering a few $1,000s for someone who was transferred just by ambulance but says they weren't injured, it's kind of conflicting things there. It sounds like there may be more to this story. So we're going to have to talk to this individual a little bit further to kind of parse out what's going on here. Anyone who has this kind of circumstance, if they have a check from an insurance company, it's always a good idea to at least call an attorney to get a free consultation. There may be some things that you're missing in your case. You may have outstanding money for pain and suffering, lost wages. There's other avenues of compensation that you may not be aware of that the insurance company may know about, but you may not necessarily understand. So it's always a good idea to just make a phone call. I'm always available for a free consultation. I take care of my clients to do that because I understand that every case is a little bit different, and we have to find out what unique circumstances make this one either a good case or one worth pursuing.
Okay, and the final question we have is, I'm currently bedridden due to an injury at a grocery store. I haven't fully recovered yet, but I'd like to know my options after I'm able to walk again. Do you do house calls?
I know that people who are injured in an accident, slip and fall, whatever kind of accident it is, are going through a lot of stress. They have injuries in the first place with pain. They have medical expenses. They may be missing work. They have insurance companies calling them. They're having to collect their documents. So there's a lot that goes into one of these cases, and it mounts up for these people, and it becomes very stressful. I'm always willing to make a house call and take the burden off the client, and that is what I do at the Kelly Law Team is take the burden of dealing with the insurance company, take the burden of working with the medical records, take the burden of communication and making a demand for the injuries. These are all things that if you have a good attorney who takes the time to evaluate your case and do a good job, it will make your life a lot less stressful and make the process easier for you.
Excellent. All right. Well, if you have any additional questions for John, all you have to do is post them in the comments section below. He's agreed to get back to you with answers. Thanks for your time, John.
Thank you, Ryan.